If you're traveling to the North Country Fair, where the winds sit heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there. For she once was a true love of mine. Please see for me, the hair hangs so long and flows in curls down her back and breast. Please see for me if her hair hangs so long. Oh, that's the way I remember her. Oh, see for me if her coat's pulled up close and her beret frames her sweet pretty face. Oh, see for me if her coat's pulled up close, for I'm exiled in a lonely place. Please see for me if she remembers me at all. A million times I hope and I pray. In the darkness of my life, in the brightness of my day. So if you're traveling to the North Country Fair, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there. Oh, she once was a true love of mine. Oh, she once.
A spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Look at the air. Look at the hang time. Look at the flying motion. The shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it! They win it!
Michael Jordan at his best. There's very few people on this planet that can do that.
Lots of guys are strong, and lots of guys have skill, and only one guy has this level of artistry.
Jordan shows again why he is the #1 MVP in the world.
All right, happy birthday, Michael Jordan. Welcome to the Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. Tonight, we're all back here together, Matt and Adam and myself. Michael Jordan's birthday today. So, he was a dominant player with the Bulls, and I think when he went to Washington, I think he should have just stayed away from the NBA. I think he ruined his legacy going to the Wizards for some apparent reason. I think he should have just hung it up. But I guess he felt like he could try to help a franchise, like the Wizards or the Bullets to try to become something, and I guess it didn't work out.
No.
Yeah. So we have a great show lined up here back on a Monday, folks. You're wondering why we're back on a Monday, because we feel like being back on a Monday, after different weeks. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll have the coach of NC State softball, Lindsay Leftwich, will be joining us, and then Pat Skerry with the best team in college basketball. You think Kansas, you think Duke, you think Arizona, but Towson has won 12 in a row since dating back to basically the beginning of January when they lost on the road. So, Coach Pat Skerry will join us at 6:45, and our good friend Dave Vermont will join us. We'll talk bowling, his stories about Major League Baseball, because he was working with the Orioles back in the day, down in spring training. And we'll talk a little Miami Hurricanes with him, because I know the Canes basketball team is suffering because of Coach Jim Larry there retired earlier before the start of the 2025 calendar year. So it's going to be a very interesting show this evening. So Adam, I guess what's new with you over the weekend?
Oh, I was watching a lot of college baseball over the weekend. Elon almost knocked off number one in the country, Texas A&M, on Friday night. Didn't happen, but it looked like a strong showing from a CAA powerhouse. And I was watching a lot of college softball as well from beautiful Clearwater, Florida. And Chris, I think it's time that we bring in our first guest of the night.
Well,
so our first guest of the night, she was an assistant coach down in beautiful Baton Rouge, Louisiana for a dozen years under legendary head coach Beth Torina. Now she makes her home in Raleigh, North Carolina as the head coach of the NC State Wolfpack. So joining us now in her second year in the state capital of North Carolina is NC State softball head coach Lindsay Leftwich. So, Coach, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And before we talk about this year, congratulations on being selected to the 2026 Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational next year. So what will it mean for you as a coach to represent NC State in this premier softball tournament that ESPN has done over these past few years?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited that Clearwater and ESPN called us and invited us to play in the Shriners Classic. I've had the privilege of playing in it 3 years before. We played in the original one, the very first one they ever held when I was at LSU, and I played in 2 other years after that. And it's an incredible just show across the board. I mean, ESPN does a great job of promoting college softball in that space in February when you're not used to softball being on. It's kind of like a lull in the basketball season, and they find some time slots for us on Big TV, the MLB Network, ABC, and then obviously all of the ESPN linear networks in that spot. And so I'm really proud that they see our potential, and they kind of see hopefully where our staff has this team headed, and that we get a chance to show off the red and black down in Clearwater.
And you could have a rematch of the team that you were an assistant coach at in LSU. So what was it like to be around Coach Beth Torina when you were in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, actually, I started working for Beth in 2007, 2008, down at FIU in Miami. We were there for 4 years, and then when she took the head job at LSU, I went with her also as an assistant again. So I spent 16 years with Beth. And, I am sitting in this chair for a lot of reasons because of her, because that she trusted me with a lot of things, because she gave me the ability to kind of grow on my own, always having her in my back pocket. She never micromanaged us. She never she gave us a task and expected it to be done to the best of our ability. And she just kind of let me be myself. And I am more than appreciative for all of the opportunities that I had with her. And every day that I'm here in Raleigh, I am proud to be here. But I still definitely miss home, and I'm not from Louisiana at all, but that place became my home, and those people became my family. And when I took this job, they did a really good job of reminding me that it's not subtraction, it's addition. And now I just get to add some other really cool people to my life and to my family.
Yeah. Well, you guys are 5-5 after the first 10 games, and then you guys were down in beautiful Florida, and now you're going to go back home, and you're going to be going to Elon to play the Elon team from the CAA on Tuesday. Hopefully the weather will be great for you guys. But what did you guys learn? What did you learn in those first 10 games?
I learned that our pitching is very, very prepared. I was beyond impressed with what our pitchers have done. Defensively, we haven't always backed it up, and offensively, we didn't string enough runs together in the last couple of games this past week. But our pitchers have come out and blown the doors off some people and more than surprised us. Carly Maxton currently has a 0.00 ERA. And, she's in the tops in the country in that. And so she's doing a great job. And then obviously getting Wynn Gore back from injury this year is going to be huge. She comes in and just dominates, throws hard, puts the ball down in the zone, and people have a hard time getting out of the park. And they all 4 of them have really set us up to like kind of roll from this point on. Now that we like really know what they're capable of, and now the defense and the offense just have to catch up.
Matt, you got a question?
Yeah. So what are some things that for the first 10 games, what are some things that you guys have to work on?
I mean, I think across the board, we're trying to figure out the offense that fits together the best. Obviously, like we have 19 hitters, and out of those 19 hitters, which 9 or 10 are going to string together the most offensive production at the same time. So really looking for like just this team offensive mindset that allows us to get runners on base and score runs. I don't really care what your batting average is. I care like, how do you help us score runs? And, and if that means you're on base all the time and your OPB is up and we're doing things like that, then there's a place for you in the lineup. And so I think that just continuing to see like who's going to continue to rise above the group and really run away with some things, I think that will help us make some decisions moving forward as we get closer to ACC play and like really see who's going to lock down those spots in the offensive lineup. And then defensively is kind of the same thing. We've run a couple of different people in the middles, played a couple of different first basemen, really looked for like just who is going to be the most consistent across the board. Now, obviously, like your best defensive lineup and your best offensive lineup don't always match. And so, we got to figure out how we meld those two together and what puts us in a spot to be successful. Our outfield has done an incredible job, and the 3 of them have pretty much locked down those positions. And they're going to continue to lead us in a lot of spaces, defensively and offensively.
That's true. So this weekend, besides the single game on Tuesday, you have one of those everybody comes to you for the weekend tournament. You got like Illinois coming to town. You got Northern Colorado coming to town. I think you got one more. I couldn't remember who's on.
Western Michigan.
Central.
Yes,
Central. Yeah.
Central Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about making these schedules, because people don't realize this time of year, a lot of people do all these big group games so you get more games under your belt because of the weather, and you're down south and and up here in the north, a lot of people, like in Maryland and Pennsylvania, they don't want to play anything in the cold because we don't know if it's going to snow tomorrow or not, and so just talk about how did you get this game, all these teams to say, hey, we'll go to Raleigh for middle of February.
Yeah, I think building your schedule is a lot more difficult than people realize in every sport. There's this thing called the RPI, and the RPI or the KPI, depending on which sport you're playing, is how that kind of like at the end of the year, it's this big crazy equation that tells everybody, okay, this team should be ranked number 1 when we get ready to rank the postseason, and this team should be ranked number 292. And so when we're building our schedules, we try and make sure once we get our conference schedule, okay, here's our conference schedule. It's this hard from a strength of schedule perspective, from an RPI perspective. Now we have to be able to like subsequently like add in other games that 1, you think you can win, or 2 are going to help your RPI. And so as we add teams to our tournament, we try and add teams that are going to continually win their conferences. Once they get in their closed conference loop, they're going to win a lot of games. So like if you beat them at your place, and then they go back home and play their normal conference spread and win all of those games within their conference spread, then that really helps your RPI ultimately. Now, if you schedule too soft and you only schedule teams that you can beat, then when it all comes down to it, like at the end, when it's all said and done, the selection committee says your RPI was too soft or like too low, your strength of schedule wasn't high enough, then you don't have a chance of getting in a large bid, or you get a really bad at large bid and you end up at number 1 Oklahoma every year. There's a lot of different things that go into it in that. So we're getting ready to build our own tournaments. We try and make sure we add a Big 10 or a Big 12 team somewhere in there, because that their RPI is going to get like pushed up the board. And then the other mid-major schools that we try and add are teams that are going to get into their closed conference loop and win. And so that's kind of like Northern Colorado has been very good the last couple years, and really done some good things. And then Central Michigan, like they get out once they can finally get home and play some games when it warms up, they roll out and beat some Big 10 teams every year. So that really helps us along the board too.
Yeah, I got to ask you about JMU. You just played them a week ago, and I have a house down in McCaskiesville, Virginia. How good is JMU softball? Because they're coming off 4 years removed from going to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, JMU for the last, I think, 10 years has been really consistently good. When I was at LSU, we actually we went to a super regional at JMU. They
Yes,
hosted
you
us in a
did.
super regional.
Yes, you did.
We ended up going 3 games with them. We had to beat them in a doubleheader on Sunday. Luckily, we had 2 really good arms on the mound, and we were able to pull that out. They had Jalen Ford and Megan Good on the mound at the time, and they were phenomenal. And
Right.
and so I would say that offensively, they definitely are down compared to where they have been in the past. But on the mound, again, like they can always pitch and they can always figure it out. They threw a righty against us on Sunday that threw 3 different speeds, like 61 at your face, curveball at 63, and then change up at 57.
Wow.
And like having your players have to figure out like a 12-mile-an-hour spread is really, really difficult. And so I think yet again they're going to be able to pitch, and just because they can pitch, they're going to be able to beat a lot of people.
Yeah, and this time of year, everybody doesn't know what their pitching staff is, and like you said, you see them now, and you might see them in June, or in Oklahoma City, or you might go to Harrisonburg for a regional. So you don't know. You might see them again, and you use this stuff you do see right now in February might help you in the long run.
Absolutely.
That's true. Adam, do you have another question?
Yeah. So when you were down at LSU, you were around some significant players: Sierra Briggs, Savannah Jankwish, some players who have gone on to play professionally. So, what was it like to go to Oklahoma City to the Women's College World Series when you were part of LSU's coaching staff?
Yeah. We went to the World Series our first year there in 2012, and like we solely went there because we could pitch. Offensively, we weren't very good. But at the end, when it all came down to it, we got into postseason play. Our kids had some massive fight in them and figured it out and put us in it. And it was one of the coolest experiences of like my coaching career, like getting to coach that team in Oklahoma City. And then the 3 years that we went after that, like it's the hardest week that you've ever been a part of. Everything is different. There's like the timelines are different. Everything that you've been doing for the last 56 games like doesn't exist anymore. There's not like, oh, you hit an hour before, you do this at this time. It's like, hey, ESPN and the NCAA control everything. And so if they're telling you you're hitting 3 hours before, you're hitting 3 hours before, and you're going to figure it out, And so it's really a test of your team's resilience. Like getting there is the hardest thing you've ever done, but then figuring out how to win it is even harder. Obviously, I've never figured it out. You never know if you were this close from figuring out how to win it or if you were this far, and it's like, it's the matter of one year we beat Alabama. We finished the game at like 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, something like that. Then we hadn't prepared for Michigan at all because Michigan had flipped sides of the bracket. So we had to play them again the next day at 11. So, you have from midnight to 11 a.m. the next day to figure out how to prepare to beat one of the best teams in the Big Ten. And, you don't sleep, you figure it out. You hope your kids are sleeping and eating and the coaching staff is up and doing all the work, and you try and figure it out. We ended up losing to them to put us in the losers bracket. But, that experience in itself, like, makes you a better coach. It makes you understand that like it just takes what it takes. And it doesn't matter if it means I didn't sleep. It doesn't matter if it means that, we're practicing in the rain. It doesn't matter, whatever. Like you have to figure out how to coach them no matter what shows up. And and I don't know. I think it was like a really large highlight of my coaching career, but I also think it was a really large growing moment in my coaching career too.
Yeah, I will say that is on my bucket list of places to go because I was a varsity softball coach in high school my junior and senior year, and ever since then I watch a lot of regular season. I always watch conference tournament. I always watch regional, super regional, the Women's College World Series it's called. I'm glad to see college softball has grown over the last 15 to 20 years, and I'll always watch college softball until the day I die. So you'll always have a supporter in the Smoky Mountains, coach.
There we go.
That's cool. Well, Coach, we're going to let you go because we're up against the clock here, but thank you so much for coming on tonight, and good luck this weekend, and hope the snowstorm gets the heck out of here quickly so you guys get some games in.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much. Go Pack.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Go Pack.
All right. That's Coach Lindsay Leftwich, the head coach of NC State football. Softball. I'm thinking football right now. You can watch that game tomorrow night if you have Flow Sports, if you want to pay the subscription at 5 o'clock on Flow Sports, full of sports. So anyway, we'll switch gears. We got this gentleman's been the toast of Baltimore for a while. His team is rolling. They're up to the lucky 12th win in a row after beating Monmouth over the weekend, and now they hit the road. And and Adam, like in bowling, the lucky 13 strike is really tough, right? When you bowl 12 strikes in a row, you get to the 13th one, and you're thinking you can get it. But we're hoping that he keeps it rolling. So here's Coach Pat Skerry joining us tonight. Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us. And I've been very scared to have you on the program because I don't want to be the one jinxing your winning streak. So I hope not. I want you to win on Thursday.
Well, we appreciate you guys having me on, man. You know what jinxes a winning streak is turnovers and bad rebounding and ball security. Don't worry about this. It's always good to see you guys.
Yeah. So talk about this winning streak. I've been watching it from afar because I've been busy doing other stuff, and I'm like, wow, you guys are just, you're just playing some great defense, and it looks like your kids are having fun. Is that the key to get a winning streak? It's just have fun, right?
Well, we tell them the fun is in the winning, right? That's the way we do this. No, we've got good players, and it's a connected group, and there's a lot of experience, and we've been healthy for a while now and getting better. So, the one I think really admirable trait about this group is they're very comfortable in tight games, and hopefully that's something that continues.
Yeah. Talk about that. Talk about the arena. It seems like everybody's coming to pack the arena now. It's like you're enjoying the full crowd. I remember when coming there for years when you're like wondering if anybody's showing up today. Now it's like everybody wants to come and see you guys. That's great.
Yeah, it's gotten better and better, obviously, since COVID. And we've had great success since then. But it's been our students in particular have come out the last couple games, and then when we get back there next week, we're expecting the biggest crowds we've ever had. So we're appreciative of that. And I think it also is it reflects the performance of our guys. So we need the place loud and energy in the building. Mm-hmm. And we've got a team that, quite frankly, should deserves that.
Right, exactly. Matt, you got a question for Coach?
Yeah, Coach. First of all, congrats with the winning streak that you have and everything. And So what are the key factors that has led to this amazing winning streak?
I think we've got a competitive group. Defense has been good. It's second in the conference in defensive efficiency. And then this group takes care of the ball, one of the top 20 teams in the country and taking care of the ball. And we get to the glass, so we get more shots. And we've got some talented guys that can put the ball in the basket. So, we're second in the conference in offensive efficiency. So, we get guys playing well on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think it's cool. You guys were on Sports Center the other night with one of your players doing a nice juke and like hitting a 3-pointer, and then the guy went flying the other way. I'm like, awesome, dude, good stuff. Yeah,
that was a big time play by Dylan Williamson. He's got the ability to make those.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. Adam, do you have a question for Coach?
Yeah, so I'll say as well, congrats on the 12-game winning streak. And, just talk about how cool it's been to have the national media talking about Towson University, because when I see all these, brackets, that people project, I see Towson as a 14 seed or a 15 seed, and I say to myself, I know that, Coach, and I'm quite happy to see him where he is with his team right now, being at the head of the CAA.
No, you're a good man, Adam. We hope it continues, right?
Yes.
I think it's your men's basketball program is can clearly be a great front porch for the rest of your university, and having some success and getting some recognition for that is really good for Towson University. And Towson University is a great place, so we hope we can kind of keep having success and so that more and more people find out what a great place Towson University is.
It is. It is a great institution, and it's really cool. And all your coaches like you and yourself and Pat, Coach Shimrick, and all work together. You guys all work together as a team. So you probably have the football coach calling you like, "Hey man, well, I'll see you tonight." And you got the tennis people there. The other day I saw like the tennis people were there. It's great that this whole community is coming to Towson now to watch basketball.
Yeah, we've got really good athletic department staff, and I think our athletic director Steve Eigenbrot sets a good tone as far as there's good camaraderie within the athletic department. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this game Thursday night down at Elon. Elon is still a tough school, no matter what in the CA. Everybody's a tough school in the CA, no matter what it is. Just talk about this road game. You have 2 road games. This one on Thursday, and then you got to go to a newcomer in Campbell on over the weekend.
Yeah, it'll be a hard game Thursday night. Elon's had a good year. They beat Notre Dame in the non-conference. Just had a great win at UNC Wilmington. So. We're trying to put a pretty good game plan together. They're the second tallest team in the country, according to Ken Palm, and play a lot of zones. So, it's going to create some challenges there. And I'm sure you guys are aware they've got a brand new center, this guy Matt Van Komen. He's 7 feet 4 inches. So,
oh wow,
that presents some problems in the middle of the zone.
It's like that guy in Purdue last year, was carrying Purdue all the way to the Final Four.
He's not quite as good as Zach Edey, thank goodness.
Hey, just go. Like my dad said, always try to go around them. If you can, just use like a long tree, just go around them somehow. I'm like, how?
Go under his leg.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah. I don't know. We're gonna hope big tree falls hard, right? When we go,
or get him in foul trouble, then you're good to go.
There you go, Chris. There you go.
Or 5,000 gone. There you go. Matt, you got a question for Coach?
Yeah. So speaking about that player that's 7'4", what kind of game plan are you going to have to be successful?
Well, I can't give you all the details.
Yeah.
Of the game plan.
Just like one thing. What's like one thing?
I think for them it's our zone. We have to do a good job against their zone. 1, take care of the ball, and 2, get good enough shots. Because the one thing when you're playing against a team that plays 2-3 zone, and they've got 2 very fast guards, the Simpkins brothers, both good players who do a majority of their scoring, is don't forget they're at the top of the 2-3 zone. So if you do turn it over, you don't get great shots. They've already got like a 15, 17-foot head start getting down the other end of the floor. So to me, that'll be a big, big piece. Can we take care of the ball against the zone, attack the zone by not just settling for 3-point shots? And then can we do our normal job getting on the glass? Sometimes you can have a tendency to stand around against zones and not rebound.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Adam, you have one more question for him?
Yeah. So what's it like for you to be in charge of the leading team in the CAA, and knowing that you're ahead of some great teams like Charleston and William and Mary, Elon, Campbell?
We know how good the league is. The league has gotten a lot stronger this year. It's like 15th now in the country. So I think our guys are aware of how good the competition is. I'd say I've really enjoyed coaching this group because not only are they good players, but they work hard. They're good teammates and just really, really nice guys. So that's not something you take for granted.
Yeah. True. Well, we want to say last week we wished your son a happy birthday on our program. So how was the birthday with your son after? I know you had the game that night, but what did you guys do after the game?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys saying that. We had a little video up on the video board for him, wishing him his happy birthday, and then and then we came home. What we normally do, my wife handles the house. I'm like the 12th assistant here at the house, and I do what I do after every game. Come back and watch the tape and see what we did well and what we didn't do well. It's late. These games are late. We're getting old,
Yeah. Hey, we had one guy who was on the bowling tour. He goes to bed earlier than I am. I'm like, dude, you're younger than me, dude. Seriously, come on now. So Anyway, but folks, if you want to go see Towson next Thursday, they're home against William and Mary, and it's Towson hockey jersey night. I think I have one around here somewhere. They gave me one years ago when we did the games. Plus, it's also dollar beer night, so don't do anything stupid and get sloshed and be dumb. That's not a good thing to do,
Sure.
So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you guys have a great trip down to Elon and keep this winning streak going. And we'll hope to get you on next Monday. Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Have a good evening. See you.
Have a good evening, Coach.
That's Coach Pat Skerry from Towson. They're on their winning streak, 12 in a row, and they will be down at Elon on Thursday and Campbell over the weekend. So,
Hey, Chris, did you know there's a fear of the number 13? It's called triskaidekaphobia.
okay. But I just know
Well,
in bowling, that Bob Benoit got to lucky 13, and after that, he just went right downhill.
We know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called, we want the swinging streak to go right into CAA tournament time, and then
Well, they got to get over that hump. I think you could have, like Matt and I have been covering Towson for a long time. It's great to have 12 in a row or 15 in a row, but when you get to tournament time in March, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
That's
care
true.
how many you had in a row.
That is true.
You got to win those tournament games to go to the big dance, and Towson hasn't gone to the big dance since 1991.
Well,
we were still in elementary school back then, right, big guy?
Yeah, but I thought it was like I thought they were there more recent than that.
The NITs and all that stuff, but not the NCAA the big tournament. It was
Okay.
And I
Wow,
think
91. Wow.
Yeah, they took on Ohio State that year in the first round.
I was in middle school.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what happened. Mm-hmm. So folks, if you're looking for good basketball, go down to Towson University next Thursday and next Saturday for.
And next Saturday for Towson is their annual autism awareness game. So if you know someone who has autism, like we know Coach Gary's son has autism, he's sure to going down for their annual autism awareness game. And it's also senior day versus the Hampton Pirates.
Exactly. We want to also do a birthday shout out to the former owner of the Baltimore Stallions who brought football to this area a long time ago before the Ravens showed up. So if you're a Ravens fan, you should be kissing his butt right now. I'm sorry, because without Jim Spiros, I think here's Jim Spiros back in 1994 talking to up there in Canada. Without Jim Spiros, I hope Jim's watching. I wish him a happy birthday today. But he really changed the way football is in this city. And I don't think people have given him any credit for that. Because it's not the CFL is not the NFL. I get it. I get it's not the NFL. But Matt and Adam, when it was here for 2 years, it was a very high speed football, and it was great. And it was during the summer. It's not like you're sitting in the old Memorial Stadium when it's like 15 below and go, can I go home now? Yeah, I don't want. They don't have to worry about it. But without him, I don't think the Ravens will ever show up here. Because I think, and you, Matt, you agree with that too? If the CFL was not here in 1994 or 95, I don't think Baltimore wouldn't be a figment of other people's imaginations for the Ravens. Or do you think they would have been here anyway, no matter if they had a CFL team or not? Because
honestly, I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know.
I think with the NFL, what they did to them in 1984 with the Mayflower in the middle of the night, and the snow and sending them out to Indianapolis, Hersey, I think that really hurt a lot of people around here.
That did, them going to Indianapolis with what Irsay did, that definitely hurt the
they still call
everything. But with what you said about like the CFL and Jim Sparrows and stuff, I don't. I really don't know. But it seems like that you got a good information on that.
Yeah, I think so because if you look at the timeline from 84 to 94, you had cities talking to Baltimore about moving, and they used Baltimore as a ploy to get a better stadium, like Arizona. Phoenix. St. Louis moved to Phoenix because they wanted a better stadium, and they were thinking about moving to Baltimore and become the Baltimore Cardinals. And I guess they used Baltimore as a leverage. They get a better deal in Phoenix. And same thing as with the Raiders were talking about coming here. The Oakland Raiders back in the day, or the Los Angeles Raiders were talking about coming here.
Wow.
Yeah. And Al Davis used Baltimore as because this was a football town, with your father's Colts, because Johnny Unitas was working in this town. People don't realize they were here in their off season. Lenny Moore was still here, working in the off season. So basically, this is when the Colts left, that lost a family member to people. That was
when the Colts left, I mean that really hurt a lot of people, and even still to this day, there are a lot of people that don't like the Colts because of what happened.
Yeah, let's take my girlfriend's family for example. They don't mention them as Indianapolis Colts. They call them the Horseshoe. And you don't. And I would like to bring home an Indianapolis T-shirt just to rub it in around here. I came from New York. I'm a New York guy. And back in the day when I was a kid, I moved down here in 1987. We had Redskins on, or now they're the Commanders, but the Redskins were the dominant team on TV down here.
On the local CBS affiliate and NBC affiliate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
To me, I look at it as it was football, and if you look at the map of Adam, if you look at the state map of football right here, like fan wise, where I lived in Harford County, it was divided between Eagles, Steelers, and Redskins.
Wow.
Yeah, and now the Ravens are down in the city, and now it's like when you go out to Western Maryland, it's more Steeler fans.
Wow.
Yeah, because the Pittsburgh's only about an hour or 2 hours away. Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that, Chris.
Yeah. So anyway, we're waiting for David LaMont to join us, but we had somebody yesterday on the Professional Bowlers Tour who matched somebody who was an all-time great. So here it is.
9 pins for number 25. He's got it! 25 career titles for E.J. Tackett. He has done it again.
Hey, Chris, E.J. Tackett tied Brian Voss for 25 career wins.
I know. And here's my question. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame?
Ask Tom Clark.
What?
Yeah.
Well, how many wins does he have?
He has 25, and you have to have 10 in order to be in the Hall of Fame. So
he has 25, and he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I guess when he retires, I call Tom Clark would know that, Chris.
Yeah.
So
Well, they just put Bill O'Neill and Sean Radish in the Hall of Fame, and I really seriously think Ife should have been ahead of them.
Well, maybe next year. I mean, you never know.
Or Jason Benanti, Belmo, he should be in the Hall of Fame. He has 15 majors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the criteria is different than I think it is. I feel like if you have more majors than anybody else, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to get Dave Vermont to join us. He's having a problem with his camera, so I just told him to use the audio thing. So hopefully he'll log back in. I guess his thing is not working. Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Anyway, so he tied Brian Voss, for the 11th on the title list.
I believe that is correct, Chris.
Yeah,
wow,
that's not bad. 11.
No, I mean, I remember when Brian Voss competed on the PBA Tour. I remember when he won a tournament, and then the next day he got married.
Yeah. And speaking of that happened. I think I had the the clip here for that. Hold on, let me pull this up here.
It was 1990 Budweiser Classic in Florida.
Yes, I think I have it. Hold on here. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, yes, it was on this day. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So hopefully Dave will try to get in here. I guess everybody's having issues with the StreamYard thing, so we do apologize for that. So let me load this up here. I'll show you the video. So yeah, here it is. So here's the video. So here's Ryan Ross. Yeah. So I guess this is his fiance. I don't know if he's still married to her. That's a good question. It's Scott Dieters, who he was the tournament leader, and it was at the Polar, Don Carter Lanes down there in Sunrise, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and you won that tournament a year ago, or a year before that, right? When he beat Harry Sellens.
Right. Yeah.
In that same bowling center. So here's the 10th frame with Ryan Voss coming up. She's like nervous. She's a nervous wreck. Yeah,
I would be.
Yeah. So I would love to get Brian Voss on the show because I think he was a great bowler and I enjoyed watching him on TV.
Yeah.
And there you go. Right in the pocket. There you go.
Wow.
So he won that day, beating Scott Devers.
I'd like to get Scott Devers on the show because he was
a weird delivery, like that way.
He was a lefty that no one really talked about. And I mean, he did win a couple titles, when he competed on the PBA Tour. So
yeah. Speaking of people competing and birthdays, we had this happened 12 years ago yesterday, and you probably saw this on your hold on a second. Did I put it on here? Hold on. I'm trying to find it. I think I wrote it. Did I write it? Anyway, 12 years ago, this gentleman.
In the fifth, Gary Carter led off against Ken Porsche and bought a ticket to ride. Carter's first All-Star home run tied the score at 1. When Gary's not clearing the fences, he's busy clearing the bases. Then in the 7th, more kid stuff. He did it again. That ball's up, up, and away. Hitting the long ball's the easy part. It's getting around those bases that needs a little work.
So he actually tripped after he hit the second home run in 90 and 81. He came around the bases and he tripped over the first base and stumbled.
Wow.
So so he passed away 12 years ago yesterday. So it was pretty interesting. And I remember where I was. What's wrong with my camera here? I remember where I was 12 years ago. I was in my apartment in Perry Hall, and I was cleaning, Adam. Still waiting for Dave to log in. And I was cleaning, and I put on the MLB network on, and I hear, breaking news, Gary Carter has passed away. And I'm like, I stared at the television going, huh? Really? But I knew about it months ago that he wasn't doing well because I had a chance to talk to Atlanta Cepeda. Atlanta Cepeda pulled me aside at the airport and said, Chris, come here for a minute. I'm like, okay. So he sat me down, Adam, and he goes, just want to let you know that Gary Carter's not doing really well. And I was like, what? He's like, no, he's not doing well at all. And I was like, damn, So I don't know. I can listen and I can see the show. Want to call me? I'm trying to get Dave on here. I guess he's having problems with his video.
We'll call him.
Yeah, I told him to call me. So I got the phone here. So Matt, you're back on. I was just telling 12 years ago yesterday, in 2012, Gary Carter passed away. So
yeah, he did.
Yeah, so I was just telling Matt the story, about when I met Atlanta Cepeda for the first time, the baby bull, and he sat me down in the middle of this airport in New York, and he goes, Chris, he's not doing really well. I'm like, what do you mean? So anyway, so I am waiting for. I think this is Dave. Let's get Dave on here. I think Dave's on the phone here. Hi, Dave. Hold on a second. Hey, Dave. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry about this, guys. I've been watching the show. I've watched your guests in Towson. I could hear everything, but for some reason my camera light won't come on, and you can't hear me on my computer. So hopefully this will be okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, we appreciate you calling us. It'll be great to have you on the phone. We do the phone stuff too, even if the phone doesn't, the video doesn't work. So it's no big deal. You a couple weeks ago, you were doing the bowling on Fox out there in Illinois. What was your take yesterday with EJ winning his 25th title?
Well, it's his era, right? He's the dominant force in bowling. I mean, he's already steps ahead of people for another Player of the Year. It should be his 4th and 3 in a row. He is the guy to beat now. He's taken over from Jason. And it's remarkable to me that in a two-handed world, here's a one-hander with the same kind of rev rate the two-handers are getting. And really, I can't think of anybody who's in the same room as him right now. I think he's pulled away from everyone.
I agree. And it's funny, he tied Brian Voss in for his 25th title and 11th place on the title list, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. So what is the criteria for the Hall of Fame?
Well, it's so funny. I heard you all talking about it. So you have to have 5 PBA titles.
Okay.
He has 2 majors also. Meritorious service doesn't really fit here. He's not retired, so he has to be retired 4 to 5 years. What he hasn't been is 20 years of membership.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's the issue. He hasn't been a member. So that's why a Bill O'Neill or a Tommy Jones, those guys who have been around a while have that kind. They have that going for them, the 20 years. So that's why they can be active. And Belmo doesn't have 20 either. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Because I was just wondering because he won 2 Player of the Years already. He's going to be 3rd. He has 25 titles. He has he has a couple majors. He just
he's got everything checked off. But that would be like, why isn't Aaron Judge in the Hall of Fame? Or someone like, well, he's still playing. Every sport's a little bit different. Bowling is a touch unusual that they will have an active guy get into the Hall of Fame, but in this case, he just hasn't been around long enough.
Right, exactly. What's your take on Bill O'Neill and Sean Rash going in, and George Branham III? I think it's great for the bowling class this year.
You mean Doherty and Rash, or
Sean Rash and Bill O'Neill going in the PBA Hall of Fame?
Oh, going in. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, I think it's fantastic, and again, very deserving candidates. I mean, both have been, and Sean is having a little bit of a resurgence this year. Also, Bill has somehow. It's interesting, both these guys, because by now you'd think because they don't have the ref rate that a lot of guys do, that there wouldn't be room for them. But that's what's cool about bowling. There's still room for a Bill O'Neill or a Sean Rash to be able to succeed and to compete at a high level. I mean, Sean, we talked about it on the broadcast 2 weeks ago, and literally every day he's not 100% sure if he'll ever be able to bowl again. He's at that point in his life with his back issues that every bowling day for him is kind of a gift. Bill has managed, if he has injuries, he sure keeps it to himself. He just steadily goes on, steadily around the lead, making cuts all the time. He's just a guy who's incredibly versatile. He obviously can bowl in any kind of pattern and is smart enough. His game doesn't really have any holes in it. He's just incredibly steady. He doesn't have wild ups and downs like some guys do.
Right, exactly. Adam, you have a question for Dave?
Yeah, so I enjoyed listening to you on Bowl TV from Indianapolis, and this year marks the 10th anniversary of the PWBA Tour, and obviously you are the voice of the PWBA Tour. So what are some of the memories that have stood out to you since you've been calling the PWBA Tour?
Well, I have to correct you, Adam. I actually haven't been involved in the PWBA in a while. That's Dave Ryan and also Emil Williams Jr. on Bowl TV are the guys who do that. I started with women's professional bowling. That was the first shows I ever did, along with college 15 years ago, when ESPN was when there was no tour, and the only women's bowling on television was the U.S. Open and the USBC Queens. Mm-hmm. And I have memories of being at Cowboy Stadium for U.S. Open. Doing the show in Reno, Nevada, the outdoor show for the U.S. Open, which ended up with bowlers throwing plastic balls because there was dust on the lanes. And Kelly Kulick was unbeatable in that period of her career. Seeing the fact that the tour came back And I realize things look a little funny right now with no memberships anymore, but they're still going to have a 2025. They're talking about 2026, so hopefully there will still be some semblance of a women's tour moving forward. But I just think of the people I've encountered and the bowlers I've seen, the greatness of a Liz Johnson, of Kelly, of Shannon O'Keefe, and then seeing some of the younger bowlers come in now and dominate. So it's and the other thing that's really promising for women's bowling, guys, is the amount of young talent coming up from the college ranks. So that's another reason why I hope they're able to maintain a tour going down the road, because otherwise you've got some incredibly talented bowlers who may not have a home. So I'm not trying to give you gloom and doom, but I think women's bowling, as far as the ability of the bowlers coming up, is in a great position.
Yeah, I think you see it a lot in college, like number 1 Nebraska. The women's bowling is doing real well. Vanderbilt has Del Ballard's daughter bowling on the Vanderbilt squad.
You've got Alyssa Ballard. You've got all the teams now at Jacksonville State, where the O'Keefes have moved to. Yet you still have some of the other classic teams. You have Jillian Martin out there, a great young talent who's won before already at a young age. There's just a lot for women's bowling in the future. So again, I would trust that everybody will try to keep that thing going.
Exactly. Matt, do you have a question for Dave?
Yeah. So what do you think of EJ's dominance in the game?
Well, it's amazing, and I was talking to Randy about this, Randy Peterson, who's our analyst and a good friend, about how, and he said how Tackett, who's a slender guy, Adam, you've seen him, he's not a big physical weight room, bench press 350 kind of guy. And it's really, but Randy says, like he throws a yo-yo. He's able to generate with his wrist and his arm swing the kind of rev rate that you get out of two hands. And the other thing I think I've noticed over the last couple of years is that I think he's maturing a little bit. He's not quite as emotional on the lanes as he used to be. If he had a game or two that went against him, I mean, you knew it. He was a dad now. His boy, I think, is 1. And I think that, I can speak from experience that settles you down, or it should, a little bit when you're shifting priorities. Isn't just your job, but now it's also being a good father. And I think that's helped a great deal. He does get a lot of family support, but right now he's just in that zone that athletes get into, where almost everything they do turns out right. When you mentioned Indianapolis, Adam, when I was at Bowl TV, when I showed up in the town, he was in 75th place.
That's right.
And by the time I think I got to the bowling center, he was in 67th place, and he made the show.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow.
So you're like, okay. And then he takes it. You're like, all right. And you're watching him, and you see the scores he's piling up, and we're all kind of looking at each other like, he's going to get on the show, isn't he? And he did.
That's true. Yeah, that's awesome. Also, before we let you go, let's talk about little Miami Hurricane basketball and football and stuff.
Not much to talk about.
I know, but first of all, with Miami basketball, with Coach Jim Larganero retiring after Christmas, I guess that put the program in a little tailspin, because they're supposed to be playing Florida State tonight, in the rivalry game.
Right.
Yeah. So what's your take on the Hurricanes basketball? Can they, salvage this somehow to get somebody to come back down to Miami to, make the program? Like, they just came off a Final Four a couple of years ago.
But that's the weird thing about it, is they were in that really unusually charmed Final Four with Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, and it was really one of the most interesting Final Fours ever. It wasn't the same Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina stuff, and Larinaga pointed out in his retirement press conference, still like a day or two after the Final Four, they lose 7 or 8 guys. Go on to other schools, make deals, all this other stuff. Miami they certainly have put a lot of resources in NIL and football, but apparently you're not putting those same resources in basketball. And Jim, that's the other thing. Jim's in his 70s. You look at these guys who are seeing the landscape change, and maybe they don't mind the players getting some of the money, but I think they mind now having this extra thing to deal with. It's tough enough when you're coaching and you have all the things you have to worry about, from the travel of your players to the games, to the practices, to planning, to recruiting, all of the stuff that goes into it. And now you have this thrown at you. And does he really want to do it in his 70s anymore? You look at, he's much closer, I hate to say it, but it's true, the end of his life. And he has to think, how do I want to spend the rest of my days? And if this isn't it, then I have no trouble with him walking away. I didn't feel betrayed by him, and I'm an alumni.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel betrayed by Jim for leaving one bit. And I'm surprised some of the older coaches have stuck around. But Mac Brown in North Carolina is a friend of mine, and I texted Mac a couple of days after he left North Carolina, and he's like, "This is not what I signed up for." I don't think he's at all disappointed that he departed North Carolina. I think he understood that the game is changing, and I think in Larenega's case, it was the same thing. I'm hoping they can find a bright young basketball coach who has the energy to deal with all of this. And I'm not sure who that's going to be yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. And then with the football program, it looks like Mario Cristobal is trying to get somebody to replace Ward. So you get the guy from Georgia to come this year. So that's going to be an interesting 1 year, one and done again. So I guess,
this is going to be a pattern. It's not like the days when you could develop a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Miami ever will again, or at least not in the near foreseeable future, because you've got, and back, you've got a guy who, by the way, is not 100% healthy still.
Right.
So that worries me a little bit. I don't think he's going to be as good, as dynamic as Cam Moore. That doesn't mean he won't be good. But you better build up this team around him and take care of the weaknesses. The weaknesses still have been on the defensive end. And I still think they're lacking in deep playmakers in their receiving core. They had good receivers. I'm still waiting for the guys who just make you weak in the knees. Kind of receivers to join this team, but still, it's the defense that's been a weakness. You have a new defensive coordinator out of Minnesota who had done very well there, so we'll see if that translates to success in the ACC for Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, let me let you go because we were up against.
Chris, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, go ahead. Take one more question. Go ahead, big guy. Go ahead.
Okay, so so since we're speaking about coaches and NIL and stuff. I mean, we've had the legendary Nick Saban from college football retire, Coach K from basketball, Jim Boeheim from basketball, Larenega. We have all these legendary coaches that have resigned from their respective sports. What does this say to the future of sports across the board with all these legendary coaches that are leaving because of the new way the sports is being done?
Well, I think that's part of why they left. I think in some cases, again, look at their driver's licenses. How old are they?
Yeah.
And sports have always survived great coaches leaving. College football had Bear Bryant and all these other guys. The sport still prospered. College basketball had John Wooden and Lefty Driesell and guys like that. The sport still, Dean Smith, the sport prospered. It's different rules, but it seems like the game changes as far as how it looks, how it's managed every 5 to 10 years. And I think Saban is not a fan of it. But let's also admit that it's quite possible Alabama was doing some dealing. There wasn't NIL dealing when he was there. So I don't have any proof. I'm saying It's possible. So I think you just move on. These guys need to, wanted to step away for various reasons. I do think age is a factor. And the demands on these guys are unbelievable. And after a while, why? Live out your life. Be a husband. Be a grandfather if you have that situation, and be an advisor. Be like that, a consigliere. But just step away and take some of the stress out of the rest of your life.
That's true. I agree. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on TV for some great sport you do. With bowling or whatever. But
we got the Roth Holman doubles, which we recorded. That'll be on March 2nd, I think, on FS1. I don't know what time, but we'll have that. And I'll be with Bowl TV in Reno for about 9 days at the first 9 days of the World Series. So looking forward to that.
Nice. Well, thanks for being such a good friend of the program. And we'll keep in touch.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
All right, see you. Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, that's our good friend Dave Vermont joining us by phone. So that's a good point about NIL and all that's good. That garbage coming on. So anyway, we're a little behind schedule here. So let's bring in the head coach, the pitching coach of North Carolina Wilmington, the Seahawks. They're 2-2 on the year, and they just knocked off the number 4 team in the country, Georgia Bulldogs, over the weekend. Plus, he is a former New York Met. So that's great to have a former Met on the program here. So Coach Secret, thank you so much for joining us. And you're good in my book because I'm a big Met fan. So I'm glad you're on the program. When I was reading your bio, like, he's a Met. Yes.
I'm still a Met fan. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. So talk about this weekend. You guys are 2-2. You just knocked off Georgia yesterday, and your pitcher was trying to pitch like Johan Santana yesterday for 6 innings for no hit ball. But just talk about how you guys control that Georgia team.
Yeah, yesterday we won our opening game pretty handily, 12-1. And then Saturday we had a doubleheader with rain coming in on Sunday, and we just struggled to get it over the plate, honestly. So we met Sunday morning to go over, and we kind of just decided we're just going to be who we are. We're not going to worry about the team across the field. We're going to do what we do well and just forget who's over there. And if we pitch it like we're capable of, we'll come out on top, honestly. And then Marshburn, who went 6 innings, that was his actually first start in his career and he's a sophomore. And he was confident going in. He's gotten better, and he pitched like he should.
Yeah, and it's great to start over and start your season at home. Which is this weekend tournament. You had Georgia, and you had who else? You had
Quinnipiac.
So it's always good to have your first couple games at home before you go on the road tomorrow to a Duke squad. It's a pretty good team in the ACC.
Yeah, it's always nice opening up. We always usually have good weather, so most of the time we have northern teams come down and play us. But Georgia was doing renovations just like we were. But they were doing more upgrades with the stadium, and they didn't think they were going to be ready for opening weekend. So they gave us a call with the connection with being in the Athens regional last year. And we said, yeah, come on. We'll ask Quinnipiac if they're good with it, and they were good with it. So Georgia came to us.
Yeah. I have to ask you a question. I'm looking at a box score yesterday between there's a kid who lives in our neighborhood. He pitches for JMU, and he pitched against Florida State, and he pitched 2 innings, gave up 3 unearned runs, and he still took the loss. Why did he take the loss? And because he's a starter, or was he because he came out in the 3rd inning? Talk about that weird thing. I think maybe it should be the other guy, comes in. He didn't want to get the loss. Yeah.
I guess it's just a scorer's discretion. Whoever whoever's controlling the scores table that game is involved in all that. And sometimes I have argument with ours on who should have got the loss, who should have got the win, but it's up to them usually how that happens.
Exactly. Adam, you have a question for him?
Yeah. So what was it like? The CAA had a really strong start to the weekend. Elon almost knocked out the number 1 over team in the country, Texas A&M, last Friday, and then you guys knocked off the University of Georgia, which is led by a former pitching coach who was at LSU in Wes Johnson. So what was it like for you to knock off a powerhouse like Georgia, who always competes for an SEC title in Wilmington?
I mean, it's always good to bring in a big program, especially at your own ballpark and in front of our big crowds, because we always draw good crowds. But just talking about Elon and Texas A&M too, is our conference, the CAA it's a baseball conference. If you look in the last 2 years, 2 years ago we were ranked 7th in the country in RPI conference wise. Last year we were 10th. So the CAA, we can hold our own. Coach Hood always talks about, people calls us a mid-major. We think we're better than a mid-major. And we think our conference, 5 to 6 teams in our conference, like you look at it 2 years ago going into the tournament, all 6 teams that were in the conference tournament were top 100 RPI. So it's not week in and week out, like everyone wants to talk about the SEC and this and that, but the CAA, it's a baseball conference, and there's a lot of talent to come out. Just look at every year in the draft of all of the players that are coming out of the CAA. There's a lot. So I expect Elon. I thought they were going to win the game on Friday night, and I expect them to win because they're a good program. But like going back to Georgia coming to our house, we expect to win just because they have a big name and the history. we don't really look at it. We expect to win those games, especially at our own ballpark.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Matt, you have the final question, bud. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how was your team able to pull off that upset against Georgia?
Well, we had the first inning we scored 6 runs, so that gave us a little cushion. And then Connor Marshburn, in the past, I felt like we had a game plan going in, and they're a big analytical team, and we knew that they were going to take pitches because Marshburn struggled in the zone a lot last year. And so they were going off of last year's stuff of analytical. So Georgia came in and said they're going to take until he proved to get it over the plate. And when he's over the plate, he's got some of the best stuff in the country. And so it was over once they took and never put any kind of pressure on us. That tipped our hand in our favor where we could just attack over the plate.
Yeah, a little footage from over the weekend. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like the field. You guys are doing a nice field down there and where you guys play. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, so we just turfed it all this year. Actually, Georgia's got the exact same turf. So they went with the lighter color. We went with the higher contrast, which I like the higher contrast a little better than what they got. But yeah, we redid the wall, dugouts, brand new dugouts, and then the lower level 100 behind home plate. We redid all that for fan experience and all that, like VIP seating, all that kind of stuff. So we did some major upgrades this fall.
That's cool.
I like it.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you for being such a I'm sorry about the different schedules and all that stuff.
No, you're good.
I appreciate you for coming on. We'll love to have you on later in the year when you guys take on Towson, because we got Towson coming up here in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Good, tough program.
Yes, it is. And a good guy too. So that's all.
Yes.
Yep. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. That's Coach Kelly Secret, the head coach, the head pitching coach of North Carolina Wilmington. So let's bring in this weekend. There is a big baseball series in Hagerstown, Maryland, and it's a one of those. They just started doing this as a college series between Towson and University of Maryland Eastern Shore. So let's bring in the head coach of Maryland Eastern Shore, Coach Danny Acosta. Let's bring him in. Hi, Coach. How you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. Let me bring in the former Hagerstown Sun, who's going home for the weekend for the first time in a very long time, who didn't play in this ballpark. The ballpark he played is long gone. So let's bring in Coach Matt Tyner joining us. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. And let's bring in Tom Burtman, who is also from Hagerstown. He works for the Flying BoxCars. Yeah, he's the promotional director. So, hi, Tom. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. Can you hear us?
You're muted, Tom.
You're muted, Tom. Hold on.
No, I'm not.
How are you doing? Thanks so much for coming on. So,
very good. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Let's talk to you, Tom, about this series between Towson and University of Maryland Eastern Shore. How did this all come about?
Well, I think the guys to my right, as I'm looking at, kind of put this together. You know, our brand new stadium is set up to kind of work year round as far as events and things of that nature. So when the call came in to use the stadium for this coming weekend, we kind of jumped on that. Any opportunity to get baseball started a little early here in Hagerstown is a great thing. Our fans are excited about it. If you've been following us, and I know you have, Chris, on social media, the fans are excited. They're looking forward to this, and it's a number of things. It's these two teams right here and their connections with players from the area on their roster. The alumni in this area, Hagerstown, Washington County area, is huge. People are ready for baseball. College season's already started. Pitchers and catchers reporting down in Florida and Arizona. So we had 175,000 people in here last year. They're excited to get back in the stadium. But another real hook is, of course, the gentleman there in the middle below, Matt Tyner. That name will live on in infamy here in Hagerstown. The all-time home run leader for the Hagerstown Suns. And Matt, I got to say, it's a pleasure to meet you finally. I remember being a kid and attending those games in the Suns, and I ended up working for the Suns for 8 years. So good to see you back in Hagerstown. The folks are really looking forward to having you back.
That's awesome. That's cool. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's talk to Coach. So over the weekend, you guys went down to Charleston, South Carolina. I know you were driving and got stuck in traffic and had all the rain and all that stuff. You probably won one Saturday night. So I think I had some game footage from that. I didn't. Hold on a second. Here's some game footage.
There you go.
Yeah. They didn't put the game on video, so I'm like looking for highlights. I'm like, I guess I'll put that on there. That'd be funny. But just talk about that win on Saturday. What does that mean for you guys carrying over to this weekend? And hopefully now the weekend, I heard the weather is going to be a lot better than we heard last weekend.
Well, it was a big win for us. We had played pretty well throughout the course of the weekend, and to finally notch one, put us in the right direction. We hope to continue to play the kind of baseball I think this team is capable of playing. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say what a wonderful tournament that they put on down there. The Shipyard Park is run by Jason Murray, a former. Tell you how old I am. He was a player at Ball State when I was a coach at Butler back in the 90s. So we go way, way back. And it's just a phenomenal facility. It's a fun. The pork barbecue that they served our teams in between games and his getaway, it was just phenomenal. They take great care of you, Coach Acosta. You need to get that on your schedule as well as playing at every year. So, I'm a big fan of trying to expand college baseball in and around the state. A couple of years ago, Tom, I don't know if you were familiar or aware of this or not, but before Municipal went down, I spoke at a Hagerstown fan club.
You did?
Yeah, there was a young man in the front row, and I said, "Is there anything I could do for you?" And he said, "Play a game here." And I said, "That's a great idea." So we thought we would play, and I called Rob Cooper of Penn State because he was a personal friend of mine, and I said, "Let's play." So we decided to play, and wouldn't you know it, it was COVID that just knocked us out of that. I was like,
"Yep,
that would have been so neat to have been able to play the game there."
Yeah.
I
found this on YouTube. I was like, I guess you will enjoy this, Coach, because it's like, wow, this is the old ballpark. I guess it's on. I guess the new ballpark is on the old ballpark, probably, right? Or is it a little bit?
No, actually, it's moved downtown, about approximately 5 blocks away from that old spot.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Coach, that old spot has some big memories, though, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does.
So let's bring in the head coach of University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Coach Acosta. So talk about you guys. You went down to VMI over the weekend. Didn't see so well. 0-4, but what did you learn from your squad? Hopefully, to bring it up to this weekend up in Hagerstown.
Sure. Well, VMI, we knew coming in that it's a tough program. It's a program that's been playing together for quite some time. In relation to us, that we're starting to learn our first names, just to sort of speak. We have a lot of young guys and anxious to play, anxious to do well. It was a tough, like I say, matchup against VMI, but our offense did their job. We just got to pitch better and just be more aggressive on the mound. But other than that, we learned a lot of things that we're going to employ and just go from there.
That's true. All right, Adam, you have a question for one of them?
I do. So Tom, what does it mean for you to have a college baseball game at the new Hagerstown minor league baseball stadium?
Yeah, Adam, it's huge. I mean, like I said, the folks right here, they love baseball, and football season's over. It is time for baseball, and to have 2 in-state teams like this, again, with the connections that they have on their current roster and in past rosters and alumni, it's really huge. And we expect a big crowd. As you mentioned earlier, the weather's looking great for this weekend as far as winter goes, sunny skies and a little warmer temperatures. And, with the stadium, free admission that day, our concessions will be going. We'll have our merch store open. And we're having an open house as well. So people will be able to come in and we'll be able to talk about our flying BoxCars season as well. So we're looking forward to it and glad to have both of these teams a part of it.
Yeah, and Obviously, for Coach Acosta, what's it like for you to play a college baseball game at a minor league ballpark?
Yeah, it's great. It's always great because it brings the opportunity to our student athletes to experience that kind of venues that they're not really used to, but it's always a pleasure. It's always great.
Yeah. So getting back to the I know the weather was a really big issue for you in South Carolina, Coach Tyner, but I've got to ask. You mentioned the barbecue, so how good was the barbecue you were served while you were there in Charleston?
5 pounds. That's how good it was. 216. I weighed 221 this morning. I'm totally depressed. But
Coach Tyner and Coach Acosta, it's called. Y'all need to come out here to Western North Carolina to play like maybe UNC Asheville or maybe Appalachian State, because we have some really good barbecue out here in the Smoky Mountains, and I know a couple places to go. So if y'all ever come out here to play some games, let me know and I'll tell you where to go. Okay.
Noted. We're gonna check it out.
All right. I can hook you up with a couple really good places to go. So so I just thought I would let you know, coaches.
Sounds good. Good.
Matt, you have a question? Sorry about that. I had a little hiccup here. We have internet hiccups here, but Matt, go ahead.
Coach Tyner. So what are your best memories that you have from the Hagerstown, the Hagerstown Stadium?
Well, it's interesting. I just had my first pitch for the year. It's our kickoff with our fundraiser, and I had Grady Little as my keynote speaker. And of course, Grady was the manager in 1981, which was the first time that Hagerstown had pro ball, I think, for like 25 years, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Tom?
That it was that long. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went there not knowing what we were going to find. The lights were not working yet. I mean, so I had to play day games. There was no AC in any of the locker rooms, but we loved it. And our first practice session, we went there must have been 1,000 people there. And we're like, this is going to be great. Because I came from the University of Miami where we played in front of 1,500 a night. And then I went to Miami to play in the Florida State League my first half year. And there was 2 people in the stands, and those were girlfriends. So I go from 2 to 1,000 for practice. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is minor league baseball, right? And the team embraced us. We embraced them. We were good enough and lucky enough to win the damn thing. And they had to give us a police escort about a mile outside of the city. And then they basically said, just, settle down because you're not going to get to your locker room. The whole parking lot of the stadium was full of people. It was a Sunday night. Wow. And I mean, it was nuts. There were 10,000 people there. I'm sure I'm blowing it up, but it was just a phenomenal experience. And I mean, it was just one of those once in a lifetime gigs that just really manifested itself in baseball. And that was just the whole summer was talk of baseball. I mean, I mean, one of those things, man. I'm so glad I got to be a part of that. I'm looking really forward to getting back there. Just in this just set up, thanks to Coach Acosta. I mean, he didn't have to do this, but I begged him. I said, come on, man, we got to play this week. Let's get this done. You need games. I need games. Let's do this. I'll find a stadium. And Hagerstown was kind enough to put this on for us. So I think we're both looking forward to coming out there and playing.
Yes, we are.
Adam, you have another question?
Yeah. So for Tom, obviously the Hagerstown BoxCars, I believe, are in the South Atlantic League. So we have the Asheville Tourists down here. So what's it like to see what's it like for the BoxCars to play the Asheville Tourists?
So Adam, actually, we're part of the Atlantic League, which is independent baseball. So we're not affiliated, But, I remember playing the Asheville Tourists when we were the Hagerstown Suns.
Yes.
And traveling to Asheville. Love the area down there. I got a chance to go on the road a number of times with the teams. I was there from 2013 until the end. And so it was fun to travel in the South Atlantic League, a great league. And I'm glad to see that it's still a part of minor league baseball. But with that said, the stadium that we built here, it is set up that it's the most innovative new stadium built in the country. It has everything that Major League Baseball wants out of their minor league system. And I think Coach Tyner and Coach Acosta are both going to agree when they see what we have here in Hagerstown. They're going to be blown away because there's nothing that the Maryland Stadium Authority forgot. Everything is here. We actually redid our dugouts this year. So, coaches, you're going to be playing in brand new redone dugouts. We made some changes to those dugouts to make them work a little bit better. So, again, it's a great stadium. If you ever get up this way, Adam, you're going to love this new ballpark here in Hagerstown.
I know where the Hagerstown Mall is because I'm originally from. I used to live in New Hampshire, and Hagerstown, Maryland, is halfway from North Carolina to New Hampshire. So
there you go.
So when I moved down here in between my freshman and sophomore years in high school, I stopped at the Hagerstown Mall to get some exercise, and there was a Shoney's restaurant right there, a Motel 6. So it's right off 81, so I know exactly where the Hagerstown Mall is. So it's called, if I'm ever up that way, I'll come see a Hagerstown flying boxcar game. That's guaranteed.
You got it. Thank you, Adam. We'll be more than happy to open our arms to you.
Thank you.
Cool. Matt, you have another question? Matt, you have one more question, Matt?
Yeah, so let's just talk about the game. I know that we got both of the coaches on here, but what are and this is to both of the coaches. So what are a couple keys that you guys have to do in order to win the game?
I'll let Coach
Score
go
more
first.
runs. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I mean, in college baseball, and I think you saw it across the board this weekend, it's crazy offensively, right? It seems to me like strike zones are shrinking, which makes it tougher and tougher for our pitchers to even be able to compete. We're not AAA baseball players. I'd like to see this, and I'm a hitter, so I'd like to see the strike zone, not get crazy, but right now I feel like they're having to throw it into a gutter, and it's a really, really small strike zone. So we played some good games. We had some great contests down there. The first game in Charleston, we ran across a dude throwing 95 miles an hour, and that's not what you want to open up with. So that was a little bit of a shock for us. We're more in that 85 to 92 range. We kind of like that. So, that's what we got. We got to throw strikes. We got to play our brand of defense, which is pretty solid right now. We think that on turf, we're able to accomplish that. And then, you got to score 7 runs or more. And the one thing we have seen in college baseball, true to this point for just the opening weekend, no lead is safe. I mean, no lead is safe. It's incredible. I don't know if you guys caught the Rhode Island and William and Mary game yesterday.
I did.
But,
I saw that.
We were on the bus coming back, and we were just, enthralled. We just couldn't believe how many runs.
I was like, is this the first half of a basketball score? I was like, I saw that Indiana State scored 35 runs on Wagner last Friday, and I was like, okay, what a way to start college baseball opening day. You don't see that. It doesn't. I guess everyone was hitting home runs this weekend. I guess.
Yeah, I have to agree with Coach. We have to throw strikes, but as he said, the strike zone seems to be smaller, and no lead is safe at any point in the game. We were up 8-2 and lost 13. So it's one of those things that we just got to play the game all the way to the end until the last out. And, just make things happen, continue playing our game, and that's basically it.
Exactly. I agree. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. And if you want to go to after the Hagerstown, it's free for people to join. The constant, the food is open for availability, but it's good to see some college baseball in this neck of the woods. And hopefully you guys have a great weekend, and hopefully the weather's great. And Coach Tyner and Coach Acosta, thanks for joining us tonight. And Coach and Tom, thanks for joining us as well. And I hope to see you sometime this year.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thank you.
Tom, I look forward to meeting you in person here on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait to meet you both.
Great. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Good to see you, Danny. Guys, thanks very much. And we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, we'll talk to you Monday.
Okay.
All right. See you. All right, bye. All right.
That was fun.
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. I was trying to pull up the Hagerstown Sun stats from 1981. He had 31 home runs.
Wow.
31 in 1981.
It was a lot different. Minor league baseball was a lot different compared to what we see today. I'll say
so Matt Tyner has 2 records, one down in Miami as the all-time home run leader, and it's still there today. I think, let me pull that up. Hopefully it won't, we're having internet issues here. I guess with the
I'll
weather.
pull it up, Chris, if you need me to.
Yeah, it's probably the weather and the wind and all that stuff going on. Yeah.
Hey, Adam. So what or what are the good barbecue places to go to around your area?
Well, there's one that, one is called Haywood Smokehouse, and there's 2 locations. One here in Waynesville where I live, and then the main restaurant, which is located in Dillsboro. And they've got ribs, brisket, turkey breast. They've got pulled pork, you name it, and they've got it. It's called I recommend it to everyone that comes in where I work. If they want a really good barbecue restaurant, I say go to Haywood Smokehouse, and you will not be disappointed.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And that's one in Waynesboro, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, there's one in Waynesville where I live, and then the main location, which is located in Dillsboro, North Carolina, which is about half an hour to 40 minutes away from me.
Nice. Yeah, because I mean we don't have many good places here that have good quality brisket and like barbecue ribs and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, Chris.
No, we don't. We don't have one, dude. We have closest to good barbecue is there's a guy named Jake right down the street here, but when it's a local guy, but I don't want to give I don't want him to keep having people come to his place. It's good food, but anyway, we don't have traditional barbecue down
That's
in North
why
Carolina.
You come down here. That's why when I see you guys in July, you know where to go. We know where to go.
Yes, exactly. Because I know that there used to be a place called Famous Dave's, and that had real good, pork barbecue brisket, but they went out of business, and at least around our area and stuff.
Yeah,
but but the thing is that it's just tough to find places that first of all had that item, and if they do have it, then it's either dried up or it just tastes horrible.
That's true.
Guys, I'm looking at Coach Tyner's records when he was with Miami. In 1980, he had 15 home runs. And I'm looking at 15 home runs, 68 RBIs in 1980.
Whoa.
That's for Hurricane. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was with a wooden bat. I don't think metal bat came into play until middle 80s probably.
I believe so. That's right, Chris.
Yeah. Because I was talking to my dad about it the other day. Speaking of metal bats and stuff, Matt and Adam, my dad and I went to Dick's Sporting Goods last Friday just for a couple minutes to see what's going on. The bats are close to $200 now.
What?
How much?
They're $200.
200? Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Glove, like an old baseball glove, it's up to $200, $250. I'm like, who has that money to buy a glove?
For a glove?
Especially for a little kid who wants to start to play
little kid
baseball.
bats are like $85. Don't get me wrong, little kid bats are 85. But people who want to play like in rec ball, like we do,
Yeah,
it's
Wow.
like, crazy,
Man,
nuts. So
it's called inflation. Huh.
Yeah, I'm like
Matt.
$200.
Yeah, $200.
Well, I know that all three of us, we did not. In fact, we probably didn't spend $200 on a glove and a bat combined.
Dude, I felt bad buying a batting glove for like $15 when I was a kid. I thought it was too much.
I went to my local sports store, and it was like you had your glove, you had your bat, you had baseballs all there. Before all these national chains came out.
Exactly, I agree with you. Yeah, crazy. But I saw that. I was like, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. We're waiting for Coach Reed to join us from Coppin State. I texted him. He said he got it. I guess he got sidetracked. Hopefully he'll log in maybe soon. But we're going to be talking soon to Wiley Ballard, who is a sports broadcaster for FanDuel, the Braves, and part of the Braves radio network for Adam. And then at 8:15, we'll talk to our friend Mike Burnop, who is going to be up in Boston because he does the Virginia Tech men's basketball games for the radio for the Hokies. So they're up in Boston because they're going to take on the Boston College Eagles, I think, tomorrow. So he's up there, hopefully landed safely up there in Boston. I know there was an issue with a plane in Toronto today. So hopefully our condolences to the folks in Toronto. Hopefully and the people who are on that plane from Minnesota to Toronto, hope they're okay.
Yes.
That's a question. What has happened the past month with all these airplane crashes and emergency landings? What's going on?
I think it's over. I think everybody's overworked. We don't have a lot of people they're not hiring a lot of people. That's just my opinion. And I think they're overworked. And and you see it at your job, Matt. You have people who always call out.
My job. I can.
It's like you're wondering why did he call out? Me, I have to call out because I have these stuff coming on here. That stuff that kind of have to cover. But they don't hire any good people anymore. Like they hire some people for where I work, and I haven't even seen them at all. And I'm like, where the hell are they?
Well, maybe they don't exist.
Well, and also the other thing is they're cutting hours too, so they don't want to pay. They want to give out 20 hours. They don't want to give people 40. Because with me, I was very lucky that I had 40 hours with a department that I really don't know. But that's a different story for another day. But nobody wants to work for 15 hours, 20 hours a week. How are you going to pay your bills?
Chris, we could do a whole podcast on what you just said.
That's true, Matt. Yeah, that's true.
We could do a whole podcast with you working in a department you don't know for 40 hours a week.
I agree. But
the trials and tribulations of Chris's daily job.
Hey, I can talk about my daily job too, working at a grocery store, Matt. I mean, I got stories. Jeez.
Oh yeah, and I got stories as well. So heck, each one of us could have our own separate week to tell our stories.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at the Braves. They're on the right. If you want to watch the Braves, I guess the Braves have a different. I guess it used to be on Valley Sports, but now I think Valley Sports is now.
It's now FanDuel Sports Southeast, and they're also going to have games on Gray Media. So, so if you're across the Southeast, you can you'll find the Atlanta Braves on some network.
Yes,
that I will be watching. So.
Yeah, the Braves opened up their spring schedule this Saturday against the Twinkies of Minnesota. The Twinkies, I like calling them the Twinkies.
Yeah.
So, Adam, what do you think about your Atlanta Braves? How do you think they're going to do?
I think they'll contend in the NL East this year. I think that they've got some strong pitching. They do bring back Ronald Acuna Jr. after an ACL injury last year, and we didn't win the division last year, so it's a thing for us to win the NL East every year, so we want to get back into that groove again. But I think it'll be a 3-team race like it always is between the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies.
Yes.
So do you think that you're going to outdo the Mets?
With that lineup that the Mets have got, it's going to be awful hard.
So, Chris, it looks like you're going to be on top.
We just have to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, the Braves opened up the road this year. They're on the road in San Diego, where they ended their season last year.
No, Chris, I don't want to talk.
I'm just saying, it's sad. It's fascinating that you end your season in San Diego and you come back to San Diego to start the season.
It's called when Wiley It's called when Wiley gets here. I do want to introduce him. So,
and guess what? The Yankees went to the World Series.
Yeah, and they won one game, and they had a call up in the 5th inning for some apparent reason.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, that's all right. I mean, at least they made it.
Yeah, before we bring in Wiley in, it's funny. I was watching that game in the break room, Game 5 of the World Series, and the guy on Fox going, "Hey, Derek Cole is cruising. He has no hits through 5 innings." And all of a sudden, here's the pitch, single up the middle, and then like they get a double play or they forget to force out or something. And then all of a sudden, like Aaron Judge goes back and goes, "Oh, sorry, I dropped the ball." And then all of a sudden, when it came from 5-0 to 5-5, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This is the Yankees.
Yeah,
and they're going like,
it's called Major League Baseball will be here before regular season will be here before we know it.
Exactly. All right, Adam, welcome. Go ahead.
I will. So, folks, our next guest is a young man who is, if you don't know his name by now, you should. He has covered the Kennesaw State University Owls, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and, of course, the Atlanta Braves. Last year, he won the National Sports Media Association Award for television in the state of Georgia. He does a great job with FanDuel Sports Southeast and the Braves Radio Network. So joining us now to talk about the team that I pull for in the NL East is a gentleman that, if you don't know his name by now, you should. Let's bring in the very talented Wiley Ballard is joining us tonight. So Wiley, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and congratulations on winning the NSMA award for the state of Georgia. So what does that mean for you as a young broadcaster?
Well, Adam, first off, thanks so much for the kind words and the introduction. I'm glad we've got a Braves fan, some representation on here. That's very important. That was one of the conditions I had coming on here.
Don't worry, Wiley. You're good.
You got it covered. Okay, good. For me, it's funny. I've been asked that question a couple of times, and I really struggle to put it into words. I'm born and raised in Atlanta. You alluded to the, Kennesaw State and Georgia Tech. I mean, the Braves, this is my backyard. I grew up watching the Braves on TBS with Skip and Pete and, on to Chip and Joe. And, the idea of getting recognized like this is just, it's a dream come true. And I feel very humble. And I feel very fortunate. I think in this business in particular, it just takes so many people, to help one person have success. It really takes a village. And the list of people who've had a really positive impact on me is extremely long, and I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm a Met fan, but I loved the last year's game. We had that doubleheader that, like you guys, it was like seesaw back and forth. And I'm like thinking like, oh, great, we're going to lose and we're not going to get to the postseason. And all of a sudden Lindor hits that home run. And it was great. And then you guys beat us in game 2 because we didn't care, because it was like, oh, well. And it was funny. Both teams celebrated on the same field after those 2 games were over. And it was funny. I guess on the Mets Twitter account or your guys had like a peace treaty. Like we're both shaking hands at the home plate going, congratulations, you move on to the world, to the playoffs. And they're like, one guy's over the other side, high-fiving the other guy. And I'm like, hey, we're just all having fun. But, but the Mets and Braves and Phillies and Braves. And, it's a high-attested NL East, and it's going to be one of those again this year.
Yeah, I think the rivalries in the division are as good as any in the sport right now. I mean, you factor in the Braves and the Phillies meeting twice in the last 3 years in the playoffs. You factor in the Mets knocking out the Phillies last year in the postseason. there's just a whole lot of guys, at least fan bases. I can't speak for the players. A lot of fan bases that don't like each other in the division. And I think that makes it a really rich division. And, it's funny. I've talked to different Braves fans. Adam, I'm curious for your perspective on this. But, when I'll talk to Braves fans from, let's say, the 70s and 80s, they always say, oh, the fiercest rivals, the Dodgers, right? And if you started following the Braves in the late 90s, it's, I can't stand the Mets, no doubt. For my generation, it was the Phillies. It was Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, Cole Hamels, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Shane Victorino. We hated those guys because they always, had the better edge of the Braves there in the late 2000s. So for me, it kind of feels like we've got all three of those rivalries really cooking right now. And I think it makes it a really fun time to be a Braves fan. Yeah,
I will say, being an Atlanta Braves fan, it's nice to see when they clinch the NL East, early. So to the Mets fan, and it's like, you want the NL East title, you got to come through Atlanta. Well, last year that didn't happen, and Chris brought up that we started a year in San Diego, Wiley, and we all know what happened last year, in the playoffs in San Diego. So, but the Braves return Ronald Acuna Jr., and we all know he had an ACL injury. And so how do you think Acuna will do back in the Braves lineup?
Well, I think first your point about finishing in San Diego and starting in San Diego, the same thing happened a year ago. Season ended in Philadelphia and opening day was in Philadelphia.
That's
so
right.
I'm kind of done with that trend. Hopefully we can reverse that this year. And, I don't know, maybe open up at home next year. And, anyway. Ronald Acuna Jr., look, I've got a lot of confidence in him. I think he's a guy who, has been through this rehab process before. Alex Anthopoulos has talked about it. They don't want him playing in any grapefruit spring training games. And I think they're going to be willing to be extremely patient when they decide to bring him back. And I think what is most encouraging this week, it was clear that Ronald is fully bought into that strategy. He's willing to say, hey, when they give me the green light, I'll be ready to go, but he's not going to push it. And I think the biggest takeaway I've gotten from just hearing a lot of the Braves front office and coaching staff speak is they really don't want him to come back until he has confidence in that knee. I think we saw that at the start of the 2022 season, rather when he came back. Yes, he's medically cleared. He's healthy on paper, but it didn't feel like he really felt healthy. It didn't feel like he could really cut loose that swing. So I think that's something that I think Ronald and the Braves both want to make sure that when he steps in that box for the first time in 2025, he's going to have no doubt about the structural integrity of his knee.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm a fan watching you guys from afar. Always, we play each other really tough, no matter what. We can't even, when the Mets played at Turner Field, we couldn't even solve Turner Field. I don't know why. It was great that we played real well in Fulton County Stadium with the old stadium, but it's always, plus this new ballpark is a little Achilles heel for us too. It's a nightmare, but I think we did well last year. But I agree with you guys. Acuna was the offense, and then everything was clicking around him. And I feel like when he went down, everything else kind of went down with him. But you guys still stayed afloat like we did. Stayed afloat. We had injuries, like the Mets had injuries. Everybody had injuries, and I think it all caught up at the wrong time, because I feel like the Braves could have done a little bit better against San Diego and take on the Dodgers in the NLC and the divisional series. I think the injuries and the long season finally caught up to the Braves. And I think people don't realize 162 games, and you're a broadcaster, you got to do 162 games. By the end of when October comes around, you're looking for vacation, right? You're looking to get out of town for a couple of days, because you're always measurizing games. You got to go here, you got to travel here, you got to be in your suitcase, more than every year, all these road trips. And I think a lot of these players are not, when it gets to that end of the year, they run out of gas.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that. I look at the injuries the Braves sustained, and Ronald hadn't quite found his stride even before he got hurt in 2024. But you throw in Ozzie Albies missing a couple of months, Sean Murphy's oblique. I think that derailed his whole season. Now, I'm not sure Sean would ever say that, just because he doesn't want to give the excuse, but look, you have an oblique issue on opening day. You don't play for 2 months. You feel like you're behind the whole year. It's not going well. I think he's poised for a much better year offensively. Austin Riley goes down in mid-August. That was the one for me. And maybe this is just my opinion, but that was the one for me where everybody just kind of looked around and said, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's a Sunday in Anaheim. It feels like you're fighting to stay afloat. You're still in the mix. And then you lose. You've already lost Acuna. You've already lost Strider. You've already missed, you're already missing Ozzie at that time. And then Austin Riley goes down. It's like, come on. I mean, I also think when it comes to that San Diego playoff series, and Alex Anthopoulos said this at the end of the season, the biggest problem for the Braves last year, I shouldn't say the biggest, but a problem for the Braves, especially when it came to their pitching rotation for the playoffs, was they didn't clinch early enough. Adam, you were talking about it. You love it when the Braves clinch early. It's nice. Yeah. Not only can we, flaunt it a little bit, right? Yeah. But also the Braves can set up their rotation properly. And I think they were clearly not able to do that this past year. And then on top of that, Chris Sale, again, who had been so healthy the whole year, 29 starts, leads Major League Baseball in wins, ERA. He would have won the strikeout title as well in Major League Baseball if it weren't for that injury at the end of the season. But when you don't have Chris Sale available, and then you're forced to throw A.J. Smith-Shawver there in game one because you had to use the rest of your pitchers just to get to the playoffs, it puts you in a really tough spot. And you talk to a lot of people around the sport. Obviously the Dodgers won the World Series, and it certainly seemed like they were the best team in baseball. A lot of people have the opinion that the second best team in baseball last year was the Padres, and they were this close, had to win 1 out of 2 to knock the Dodgers out. So, look, I think the Braves, quite honestly, have had a pretty tough draw in the playoffs these last few years. But again, that's part of baseball, is you got to try and be at your best in October. It's no secret. We all know that the championship and the World Series, it happens in October. So it's important to be ready at that time.
Yeah, true. Matt, you have a question for Wiley? Go ahead.
Yeah, so between the 3 teams, the Mets, Braves, and Phillies, who do you think will end up winning the division this year?
Well, this is going to be a cop-out, and I'll give you a real answer after this, but I'll say whoever stays the healthiest, honestly. I think that's a boring answer. I think but it's usually true. Having said that, I think the Braves are actually kind of in a spot where they're lying in the weeds a little bit. I think the offense was not only injured but underperformed last year. Matt Olson, of course, that first half didn't look like himself. He turned it around. I still think that the offense is better than people think, which is so funny because 2 years ago it was the best offense, by some measures in the history of baseball. But I think it's so easy to forget that, how good Ozzie Albies is. I think Michael Harris, I know there was a story today Mark Bowman did about chasing 30-30. He's got a chance to be to me, he's a dark horse MVP candidate for the next couple of years. Playing a premium defensive position. He's got power. He's got speed. There's just a lot of boxes he checks. And you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. So for me, the Mets adding Soto, keeping Alonso is big. I'm curious to see if they can find the same lightning in the bottom when it comes to their pitching staff. Because keep in mind, they signed a lot of one-year deal guys, and they pretty much hit on every single one of them. Now, I think Sean Manaea really found something there in the second half, dropping the arm slot. He could be really effective. Look, as someone who covers the Braves, I suppose if I had to pick the team, I'd pick the Braves. But I also, again, you touched on the Phillies yet. That's a team I think that feels a little more pressure because they're getting older. On paper, their windows, closing sooner rather than later. And they've had, last year they were poised to really give the Dodgers a run for their money. But obviously the Mets came in there and said, no, not so fast. So I think the Phillies maybe have the most pressure. I think the Mets, clearly had the biggest offseason acquisitions when you factor in Soto and then retaining Pete Alonso. And I think the Braves, more than anything, they just want to get healthy. Trying to bring back the Cy Young Award favorite along with the reigning Rookie of the Year. You lose those two pieces. I'm not sure there's a team in baseball that can survive that.
Right. True. Exactly. Well, Wiley, we're up against the clock here, but thank you so much for coming on tonight. And I know you're getting ready for your first game this weekend. Again, I think you're doing the Twins and Braves this weekend on the radio.
So I won't be heading down there until the first week of March.
Okay.
So But they'll have Brandon and Ben will be covering you there, and then once we get about halfway through spring training, they'll get a breather. I'll pop in, and then we got opening day at the end of March.
Nice.
Can't wait, Wiley.
Yeah, and if you want to put a circle around this, Mets and Braves, June 17th.
Oh yeah.
Wiley, it's called. We'll have to get you. It's called. We'll have to get you back on. So we can. So you and I can give Chris a fit since he's a Mets fan.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're still on that time because we normally take 2 weeks off before we get back to the ACC kickoff. So maybe if we can time it right, we'll get it on there.
Yeah,
that'd
be perfect.
Also Wiley does cover the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets as well. So so college football season will be here before you know it with spring practice and spring football. So
no kidding. Well,
all right,
guys,
Wiley,
thanks so much for having me. We'll talk anytime. I look forward to coming back soon.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
Have
Wiley.
a great evening. Thanks, man. See ya. All right, that's Wiley Ballard, who covers the Braves and Georgia Tech and all that stuff. So let's bring in our good friend, who is a great tight end, the best tight end in Virginia Tech history, and he's also, I heard he's a pretty good basketball player too.
I wonder if he's going to get some lobster when he goes up to Boston.
Maybe. Well, that's where he is right now. He's in Boston. Maybe he had it for dinner. Mike, did you have lobster for dinner? That's the question.
Did I have what for dinner?
Lobster.
No lobster. We're with the team, and they actually had some fried chicken. They had some flank steak, some veggies, really good veggies, tossed salad. It was really good.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, first of all, happy New Year to you, sir.
It's freezing up here.
Oh, is it? Is it freezing? How cold is it?
It's like in the 20s, and the wind's blowing about 50 miles an hour.
Oh, good golly. Oh, good Lord. Well, first of all, happy New Year to you, sir. We appreciate you coming on in the new year. We haven't had you on since football season. So what's been new with you?
Well, you're just traveling a lot. We've had a lot of basketball games on the road. I think 5 out of 7 we were on the road. We had to go to California for a week after the New Year's, after the bowl game. And we are now in the midst of 3 out of 4 on the road. So we got some home games coming up at the end of the season. But we go from Boston to Miami at the end of the week this week to play down there. So, yeah, it's been a little bit crazy, a lot of travel. But football, they got a new defensive coordinator just, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they got a new offensive coordinator today. And so, yeah, they're getting ready for spring practice, which will actually start in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that coach used to be the head coach of Towson University. So I think we had him on a couple of years ago, guys. I think so. That's cool. That it seems like all these coaches are going from being a head coach back to an offensive coordinator because of maybe that's just INL crap, stuff that's probably driving them nuts. Like you have to pay these players to come to your university, and maybe these coaches who were coaches saying, "Hey, I don't want that anymore. I just want to be a head coach or a defensive coordinator and let the other guy take care of it."
That's it. And that's why you see so many of these teams and schools that are getting general managers now. They can, because the head coach doesn't have time to raise all that money, shake hands, and make those people happy. He needs to coach the team. So the general manager, is having to take a lot of that load off of the head coach. And I think that's a great idea. I know that the Hokies are probably heading in that direction at some point. They got a pretty good organization now, but they definitely need to get some of that pressure off of Brent Pry in that regard.
Yeah. Did you take a look at the football schedule before? I know you're on the basketball side, but did you get a chance to look at the football schedule? It looked like it's a pretty decent schedule this year for the Hokies this year.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, the thing I don't like about it is you got 7 games in a row before you get an open date. So when you think about it, when you start August 1st, there's no downtime really, and you go right into the season. So 7 weeks, that's a lot of games and a lot of time. And then you got a break. You play 2 games, and then you got November where you got 3 games. So it's kind of a odd schedule in that regard. You got 2 open dates pretty fast upon each other, but not till 7 weeks into the season. And then you got that November stretch where you're playing at Florida State, Miami at home, and at UVA. That's going to be a little bit tough too, because UVA's got a lot more money than they've had, and they've bought a lot of great players apparently, especially on the line and a couple quarterbacks. So that game should be interesting. And Florida State's going to reload as they always do, and Miami will do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, you have a question for Mike?
Yeah, so since Frank Beamer left and resigned and everything, which I know has been a while ago, but how like how come the program hasn't been up to that same standard with playing the same way as they were with Frank Beamer? Because Frank Beamer, when he was there, they were playing fantastic. They were, extremely competitive each and every year, and they just really haven't been like that. So how will Virginia Tech football be able to get to that same standard?
Well, I think several things probably happened when Frank retired. I know in the last couple of years, a lot of coaches around the league or we recruited against were using it against him that, hey, he's not going to be there very much longer. He's going to retire. So the recruiting fell off a little bit. And then Justin Fuente came in, and he played for the ACC championship the first year. They won 10 games.
Right.
Gerard Evans, a transfer quarterback, came in, did a nice job. The next year, they were really, really close, won 9 games. And then the recruiting kind of fell off. COVID happened. And then that was a hot mess, as you guys know. And so then after that, Fu parted ways. He got fired. And they bring in Brent Pry, who had been here as a GA in 1995, 6 and 7. So he knew a lot about the program, about Coach Beamer, Coach Foster. Mm-hmm. He knew the Hokie way, the tradition, the culture, and that's what he has tried to bring back. And right. I think so far he's done a great job. It's just the talent pool is a little bit low, and it's taken some time to get them back. And they've done a good job in the portal in terms of the guys that they have gotten have come in and contributed. Every one of them have. But, now it's a matter of, how much money do you have? And the rich are getting richer, as you know. And you got to have deep pockets. And that's why the Ohio States and the Penn States and the Alabamas and Georgias and Oregons, that's why those teams have got the best players. They got the most money.
Right. Sure. I agree. And I think Virginia Tech and I think everybody is on there, and you're always trying to chase Clemson now, because Clemson's the team in the ACC. It used to be Florida State, back in the day when we started up, it was like Florida State, and then you guys came in, you took over a little bit, and then Miami's still trying to figure out what they're doing, but now I think Clemson is the standard of the ACC, and everybody's fighting Dabo, because we saw them, Adam, at the ACC championship game, everybody, the stadium wasn't filled, but it was more Clemson fans than SMU fans. And I think SMU is actually trying to show the world that they can compete in a big boy league.
Yeah, that's true. And, Miami had a heck of a year with Cam Ward. I mean, they just got left out of the playoff, unfortunately. Tough loss at the end. Technically, I don't know that they really beat the Hokies on that last play, when it took 5 minutes to review and all of a sudden the catch wasn't a catch. So that was kind of frustrating. They were living by the seat of their pants for a while. But Cam Ward had a heck of a year. And, Dabo and those guys, Clemson kind of backed into the picture of the playoffs because of Syracuse played so well. And that's just the way it is sometimes. You got to go to a fight till the end every game.
Yeah, I agree.
The crazy thing about Virginia Tech, when you looked at it, if the game had been over with 2 minutes left in it, the Hokies, I think through with the exception maybe the Clemson game, the Hokies would have been 9-0, something like that.
Yeah.
The game had ended with 2 minutes left. And I think that was part of the reason why Coach Pry got rid of the defensive coordinator and he got rid of the strength coach. Didn't have enough stamina. The second half, they slipped off defensively and lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter. And so that's why he made the change and got a new strength coach and got a new defense coordinator.
Yeah. We see that a lot in college football these days. I'm up here in Maryland, they play really well in the first couple quarters, and then I guess when they play a big boy, they run out of gas. When we saw them, Matt and I saw them in Ohio State a couple years ago, and they were playing with Ohio State the first 3 quarters, and then fourth quarter comes, it's like, what the heck's going on with you guys? You running out of gas? There's something going on here. I know Ohio State's faster and stronger, but you got to keep up with these guys.
Oh yeah, you absolutely do, and we saw that so many of our games that went down in the last couple of minutes, and the Hokies didn't have enough stamina or whatever it was, moxie to get a stop or make a play on offense, and cost them a bunch of games. That's why they finished 6-6.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, go ahead, Nat. Go ahead. Sorry, bud. Go ahead.
With this new like NIL and transfer portal era, how can head coaches be successful?
Well, I think they got to have a good donor base to get the money in first to get the players. You know, these coaches are all smart. They know their X's and O's, but it ain't always the X's and O's. It's the Jimmies and the Joes, right? You got to have the players. And so I think that's the biggest difference. You look at some of those guys like Ohio State has on their offensive and defensive line, you know, they're a lot bigger and faster and stronger than what Virginia Tech has. And some of the skilled people, you know, you could match up with them, but you got to have the linemen, you got to have great skilled people, and you got to have a heck of a quarterback. And you got to be able to protect the quarterback. That's the other thing. And then you got to keep them healthy as well. So it kind of all goes together.
Exactly. And Mike, with this NIL stuff, you know, in transfer portal, if you were playing today, what is the price tag for Mike? That's the question. What would be the price tag for you if you were playing this year? You know, playing like us, young kid, like you were playing back in the early 70s. You know, like what would your price tag be? Saying like, hey, this is what Mike Burnop wants. Can you pay me that? Yeah.
That's a good question. You know, I don't know. I'd like to think about that. Might be worth, you know, a couple $1,000 here or there, maybe. You never know. But not like the $500,000 some of them are getting now.
I know. It's like more than a coach. I'm like, what do you need that for? You know.
And there's even some that are getting paid the millions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Carson Beck, or no, Quinn Ewers from the University of Texas. I think the rumor was like, you know, $4 million or $5 million did transfer to another school, you know, and not enter the NFL draft. And it's like, it must be nice to have that kind of money. I mean, you know, going back to Virginia Tech, Mike, looking at the first few games of your schedule, you guys start off with South Carolina in Atlanta, and then you play 3 straight home games: Vanderbilt, Old Dominion, and Wofford. So, you know, just talk about the non-conference schedule.
Well, it's going to be tough to start out because you got the Beamer Bowl, basically. I mean,
yes,
Beamer,
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
And, you know, they had a heck of a year this year. He got a big contract raise. They got great players, quarterbacks back. I mean, they're going to be a top 10 team probably in all likelihood. So the Hokies are going to have their hands full there. And then the rematch with Vanderbilt, well, you know, Diego Pavia kind of got his year of eligibility back from the JUCO year. So he was a handful last year. So that means he's going to be another handful. But at least you got him at home. And then, you know, the Wofford and Old Dominion games, you better win. But if you can somehow come out of that thing 3-1, you know, I think you got some pretty good shape. Those first 2, you know, it's going to be – you got to get the split at least. You can't win them both. You got to get at least one of them. And that neutral field down in Atlanta will be predominantly South Carolina. The Hokie Nation will show up for it. But that'll be a fun game, as will Vanderbilt. But at least having those games, 7 home games this year, that'll be nice.
Exactly. Well, Mike, I'll let you go here, but enjoy the game tomorrow, 9 o'clock on, you know, it's a tip-off, and enjoy the Boston area. Hopefully it's warm enough for you to go around, but, you know, they got more snow than we do, so it's okay. What can you do?
That's true. It is. It's cold, snow on the ground here, but, you know, we just finally got ours melted back home, so supposed to get some more Wednesday maybe.
Exactly. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good. You guys take care of yourselves. Thanks.
See you. I'm back. All right, that's Mike Burnop, our good friend who we always have on the program. And it's funny, Mike Burnop was like the first guest that Ewan and I, you know, speaking of that, Ewan's out there listening to us. Hi, Ewan.
Hi, Ewan.
When we did our first show a long time ago, you know, so it's always good to have him on. So
yes.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here. We do have a program reminder next week. This gentleman will be joining us. We'll have an early start time at 6 o'clock because he is playing, you know, his Monday league.
Pete Weber.
Yes, Pete will be joining us because next week it's going to be the Mike Albee Classic. And I know these 2 gentlemen bowled against each other in classic matches on ABC. Yeah, so we'll talk to Pete about, you know, Mike Albee and the stories about him, and look at these old footages here.
Pete Weber, wow.
Yes, Pete was funny this week when he gave out the trophy to EJ and said, like, "Here, AJ, here's my trophy. Give it back to me." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did sign the trophy for EJ, so I thought that was pretty cool.
I think it was cool too. But we'll be on next Monday night at 6, so it'll be 6 to 8 next week, because we're gonna, get ourselves back into more college basketball and get a little more baseball previews. With we'll get Coach Tyner to get back on, because they'll be playing next week, as well. So we appreciate you all joining us. Sorry we had a little hiccup around the Hagerstown thing. It's just the internet, one of those things. Yes. But we thank you for joining us. We'll join you next Monday at 6. So we leave you with a good song. I heard this morning. It's some band that Nicole was telling me about. But here it is. We'll join you all next week here on the program. So have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Out my hand, tell you to run. On the way. Nobody say, nobody on. Well, pick me up with golden hand. Tell you to run. On the way. Nobody say, nobody on.